My favorite parts, look, you guys all know, I love the teaching and the developing. I just, I just, man, feel so good when it's just why I'm doing it. One, and you have a plan, and then you see the results. And so what I tell, especially the younger referees, look, we're just developing. That's all we're doing. My job, as I see it, is I've got to expand the pool of referees that can work in the tournament, that are qualified to work in the tournament. And then those, as you get deeper into the tournament, I got to expand those, the final four referees ultimately, right? Because you're sitting there watching, it's the same faces, and you go, okay, we need to expand. There needs to be a bigger pool of referees that the next person who has my job, the cupboard is full.
Being a professional and being someone who just strives for excellence in all the things that you do, I cut my own grass still. And when I cut it, like, man, I want the lines looking smooth. It doesn't matter what it is I'm doing, if it's, making a meal or a chore around the house or this job. You want to be the best at whatever it is you're doing. And I think to just have that approach and say, all right, I've committed to this. I've signed on the dotted line. This is my responsibility. What do I need to do? And you just start finding your way through it. And, you lean on the resources that you have. June Corteau, my predecessor, was a great person to assist me. I actually, when I first got the job, she's like, okay, you're flying to Minnesota, you're coming to my house, and we're just going to go through this. And I have this notebook of so many things that she shared with me. And, I was swimming in it. I mean, literally drinking from the fire hose of information.
Speaking of, my first sleeping bag experience was at the Southern Arizona camp, and and you both talked about just wanting to teach naturally, and in an earlier podcast, I talked about it as the one thing that I got out of that camp, other than of course, learning how to officiate, was that I wanted to stand in front of the room. I wanted to be like Bob Schofield and Chris Rastatter and teach. And so that's kind of how my path to the NMA office, to a lot of the training stuff I do for the local associations happened. But so for Chris, I'm not sure you knew that, but that's, kind of that's what sparked that. So thank you.
And now, episode 10, letter I, intention. Join hosts Dana Pappas and Nate Acosta, with special guests Penny Davis and Chris Rastatter on the From A to Zebra podcast.
Welcome back to the From A to Zebra podcast. I'm Dana Pappas, back with my co-host Nate Acosta. Today we're bringing you two guests whose seasons are just getting underway, so we're thrilled that we were able to coordinate schedules to get them both on our show today.
On today's show, we are covering the letter I, and our guest will be talking with us about the word intention. We are excited to hear about why this word is so important in officiating.
Our guests today are Penny Davis, NCAA National Coordinator of Women's Basketball Officials, and Chris Rastatter, NCAA Coordinator of Men's Basketball Officials. So before we get started on our word and get started on the questions, can you all just tell us a little bit about your officiating backgrounds and really how you got to the positions that you're in today? So ladies first, Penny, we'll let you go first.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you, Nate. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast with you today. Love the work that you're doing. I've gotten a chance to watch some of the earlier letters and sessions, and I love what's happening with officiating and how you're trying to bring such a positive energy to what we do and some insight. It's just great. So thank you for having me. And to answer your question, my background in officiating really just started with loving the game. I played basketball in high school and also in college. I was a Division III student athlete, actually in two sports. And once my playing career ended, my eligibility ended, I decided I still wanted to be involved in the game. And the avenue that I took was to start officiating. And I'll embarrassingly say I was inspired or led to it by the thought, like, wow, I could at least be better than the officials that I had. And so that really was my driver. I wanted to be involved in the game. And so I relocated to the West Coast. I moved from Pennsylvania to Seattle to take my first regular job, primary job. And I called the high school group up and said, hey, I want to do this. What do I do? And it was like November 15th. They said, well, we have one class left. You can come to that and then we'll get you started. that began it all. And I absolutely fell in love with that part of the game. I really regretted not knowing more about the rules because I felt like I could have used that information when I was a player. And I was encouraged to go to a camp following my first season, and I really didn't know what a camp was. I'm like, what do I need? A sleeping bag, a tent, that kind of thing. And they all laughed. They're like, no, fill out this form. We'll get you connected. And I was so new. I mean, I really had no idea that even such training existed, but I definitely found my people with officiating and with that group. I have friends that are friends to this day that I met at that very first camp, and they will be, they've danced at my wedding. That if they survive me, they'll be at my funeral, I'm sure. And it's just like those kinds of people that really have made this officiating journey so imperative and important to me. The collegiate path happened. I had a stint in the WNBA, which was ultimately very impactful. One, because it didn't go as well as I thought that it might. It ended quicker than I would have liked. I wasn't a big success at that level, but it definitely redirected me into taking some of the knowledge that I learned to create a training environment. And I didn't have an education background, but I had this drive and this motivation to just share knowledge that I'd gained. And so I bravely started my own training camp called Referee School. And that very first year, we had 18 officials in the camp, and I was mortified to be in front of the room teaching, but I fought through that level of discomfort and learned how to become a pretty decent teacher. And ultimately, that experience in collaboration with my officiating on the floor really prepared me for the moment when this opportunity came available to apply to be national coordinator. And so I was encouraged by a number of people to apply, and I wasn't quite ready to be done officiating. But for those involved in this world of officiating, these jobs don't come open that often. I knew there would be an expiration date on my on-court officiating. And so ultimately I put it out there to the universe. I applied. I said, if it happens, then it's meant to be. And if it doesn't, then I'll keep rolling on the court, blowing the whistle. So that's how I landed here.
That's awesome. I always love hearing people's journeys and how they got to where they are. And for those who watched our episode about family several episodes ago, we had talked to some members of the officiating family, and you probably heard this name a number of times in that episode, and that was Chris Rastatter. So Chris, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and do what Penny just did, and we'd love to hear about your journey.
Well, thank you, Dana. Great to see you, as always. Since I've got this job, I don't see you as often as I used to. Yeah, and then you left, and then so our whole, the boys, we're not getting together.
My four boys.
I missed that, yeah. But we're still doing our thing. Same with you, Nate.
Yeah.
I don't get to see you either, so this is really cool.
Glad once a year here in Phoenix.
Yeah, huh? Yeah.
In passing.
Yeah, so. Okay, I'll tell you, my story is clearly not as elegant and entertaining as PD's, but I will do my best. So I played high school basketball, born and raised in Tucson, by the way. So I'm I'm playing basketball at the Lakeside Sports Club here in Tucson, reliving my glory days, as are the other 25 to 35-year-olds in that league that I'm playing in. And it's like a, 3 or 4 nights a week kind of deal, right? It's every night, we're just playing ball. It was great. It was awesome. So a referee didn't show up for the last game of the night, and I had just come off the court, and I was pretty familiar with everybody, right? And I was a decent player, as no superstar. So I knew most everybody. And the guy running the league says, hey, you want to referee this game? And I said, sure. No shirt, no anything. So he took, those mesh pennies, those kind of, the pullover tank top things that you wear, that by game 4, 9:00 game, they're soaking wet at the bottom of the box, and just think like, okay. So I had a yellow one. That's what I got on. I jumped on the court and I refereed. So that was great. It was great. Had the P whistle, and it was really cool. One man mechanics is what we were working. And this is, men's adult league. So I don't have to tell you what that was like. Oh my God, what a mess. So I kind of enjoyed it. And dude said, look, you can referee for $9 a game. You get a free membership to the club, and you get to play in all the leagues free as well. So I was like, sign me up, man. It was great. I just graduated from the University of Arizona, and I was a little later in life when I went to school. So I was mid-20s probably. So I did that for 3 years, thinking I was just living a dream, man. Referring, to work on my day job. I had 2 kids. They would come with me to the club, and I'd throw them in daycare, and I'd referee. It was a blast. So one guy, finally, a player who had kids in high school, just kept after me and after me and after me and said, "Dude, you need to referee high school basketball." So I went like PD. I just signed up. I made the call, signed up. I went to a couple meetings, went to my first scrimmage, full dress. So I was really ready to go, even with my white socks. I was ready to go. PD, yeah, sleeping bag, right? Is the same deal. So now I'm looking around, everybody's got black socks on. I'll just push down my socks or something. Oh, hilarious, man. Hilarious. That was my first time full dress. So I did that for a few years. So I stumbled into it, man. I just totally stumbled into officiating basketball. And I went to a camp. Somebody kind of took interest in me in high school. His name's Tim Nichols. He was from Tucson. So he took an interest, kind of mentored me and invited me to Bobby Dibler's officiating camp in Albuquerque. That was my first camp. I went there, had a blast, got into junior college, worked a game the next year in junior college. Booker Turner was sitting in the stands. I got a phone call that summer, and he invited me to come out to his thing in the Bay Area, his little whatever it was, hiring camp kind of thing. So I did that and got hired. And I had a pretty good run, 27 years. So I feel like I had a really good run. PD, like you, I had no interest in being the boss. None. I was happy refereeing basketball. I mean, we had it made, right? We were making good money. We're just run up and down. You got, 5-6 months. Life was good. We did our summer camps. We had the Southern Arizona Officials Camp, as the two of you, PD, even you were, guest clinician at the camp. You regulars. So Sco and I did that for 20 plus years, which was a blast, which like PD, I don't know, I think I kind of naturally took to it. My family are educators. Everyone in my family is educators. So it was just something that I enjoyed doing, very passionate about it. So anyway, so now I'm just refereeing. And you wake up one morning and you see the headlines, national coordinator retires. And nobody had any idea. And as soon as I read it, my phone rang and I looked down, it was JD. "What are you doing?" He goes, "Man, it was time. I'm out." He says, "So what I'm thinking is you need to take my job." That's what he says. I said, "Thanks for the invite." Yeah, let me think about it for a minute. No. So I had zero intention of taking this job. And I tell you what, I got a few texts and then a couple phone calls from some influential people in my career. I reached out to my favorite women's national coordinator, and she gave me the lowdown on the job and stuff. And so, you know what? I applied, and here I am, going on year 3.
Gosh, already?
Yeah, I know.
It goes by so fast.
Year
It goes
3 feels like
fast.
15.
September 1 was my second anniversary. I've been in the job for 2 years officially, but this is third season. It's slowing down a little bit.
That's crazy. Speaking of, my first sleeping bag experience was at the Southern Arizona camp, and and you both talked about just wanting to teach naturally, and in an earlier podcast, I talked about it as the one thing that I got out of that camp, other than of course learning how to officiate, was that I wanted to stand in front of the room. I wanted to be like Bob Schofield and Chris Rastatter and teach. And so that's kind of how my path to the NCAA office, to a lot of the training stuff I do for the local associations happened. But so for Chris, I'm not sure you knew that, but that's, kind of what sparked that. So thank you.
That's awesome, Nate. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's actually where I met Nate for the first time, was at that Southern Arizona basketball officials camp, his first year. I was just telling my boss about this. When I saw Nate work, I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. I watched him work. He found out that I was there. He came and introduced himself to me, and I was like, "Dude, you're going to be a Division I official one day." And he looked at me like I was a crazy person. He was like, "Who? Okay, all right, crazy lady, what are you talking about? And when he actually got hired into Division I, it was an awesome moment because I was proud of him, but it was more awesome because I got to say, I told you so. So it was a big
Yeah.
day for both of us, really. But that Southern Arizona camp, just absolutely awesome. The instruction that went on there and the growth that you're able to see in officials from the start of the camp to the end was always something that was really cool. And I know
That's what
coming
is
from
cool.
it's so cool. Coming from my old job, getting to see them just get better, and it was such a great experience for me to just go and observe and cheer on the officials, and it was a great experience. I was so glad I was able to go for a few years. It was
And
good
it should
stuff.
have just been called the Southern Arizona New Mexico Officials
It should have
Camp
been.
Yeah,
because
I'll tell
I
you.
mean,
Yeah, we had a great group going, didn't we? Man, yeah,
Really
that was a
did.
lot of fun.
It
Yeah.
was.
so before we get into our letter intention, for both of you, exceptional, great careers on the floor, Final Fours, big time games, conference championships. How difficult was it transitioning from on floor officiating to your role as coordinator?
I guess it's
Well,
my
look,
turn to go since you just spoke, Chris. You know, it, it's unlike anything I had ever experienced or even what I had imagined it might be. And I think as officials, you think about the national coordinator role and you think about the preseason clinics and then you think about the tournaments. And, outside of those two things, you really don't have much in the way of a feel for the duties and responsibilities of the job. And so, it's probably good that we kind of naively go into applying for these roles with that mindset, because I think if you really looked under the covers and knew all of the other additional responsibilities and the steep learning curve that kind of goes along with it, you'd probably say, you know what, this isn't for me, but being a professional and being someone who just strives for excellence in all the things that you do, I cut my own grass still. And when I cut it, like, man, I want the lines looking smooth. It doesn't matter what it is I'm doing, if it's, making a meal or a chore around the house or this job, you want to be the best at whatever it is you're doing. And I think to just have that approach and say, all right, I've committed to this. I've signed on the dotted line. This is my responsibility. What do I need to do? And you just start finding your way through it. And, you lean on the resources that you have. June Corto, my predecessor, was a great person to assist me. I actually, when I first got the job, she's like, okay, you're flying to Minnesota, you're coming to my house, and we're just going to go through this. And I have this notebook of so many things that she shared with me. And, I was swimming in it. I mean, literally drinking from the fire hose of information to be prepared. But it's challenging. It's difficult. And I actually said in the regional clinics this year, I'm envious of the job the officials have, because it's much easier than the position I've assumed. And being now in my start of my 6th season, I know a whole lot more than what I did, even just last year. And it's a process. And I think, that's so true of officiating and the job that officials have. It's the more experience you have, the more layers of the onion you go through, and it's just continual learning, continual growth. And as we know, our dynamics of college athletics is changing so much. So if you did things the way you did them the first year, you're going to be behind. You have to think through things in a, what's ahead of me, what's the 10,000 foot, and what's coming to upstream, downstream, from all directions, because it's so dynamic. There's no 2 days that are the same.
Chris?
Yeah. Boy, PD, you nailed it. You don't know what you don't know until you get in there. I always tease, especially the first year I was doing a lot of interviews. People want to know, hey, did you know about the job, blah, blah, blah. And so then I kind of go through it, like in the mechanics manual, there's that Q&A with the people and stuff. And so I'll tease Dan Gavitt that, they don't tell you that, before you get the job. I used to say that, a lot about it, some stuff, and just to tease them because you don't know. And so it's a huge learning curve. And I suppose the first year, was like, because you're just chasing it, man. It just feels like you're just always chasing it. And that was not as fun as it is now. It's like I said, it's certainly slowed down. So, but in terms of leaving the game, I'll say this: I've never looked back. Once I made that decision to take the job, and when I walked off the court, I have not looked back. And people ask me, "Do you miss it?" And I go, well, "Let me think for a second." No, I mean, I don't miss it. Now there are times, I know one time for sure I was at a game at Rupp Arena, and I'd never been there, and so I'm sitting courtside in the end at a table, and the SEC coordinator officials is sitting there with me. And I'll never forget this. Joe Lindsay is working the lead, and now he's coming wide because the ball's here. And I've just got a shot right over Joe's shoulder, and then you can see the whole arena, and it's blue, and it's Kentucky, and the place is rocking. And I kind of, for a minute, I was like, this is kind of cool. I think I would have liked to have refereed there, And then when you go to the Final Four, you go there early and you get it, you got to go check, make sure that everything's good. But so you step up onto the floor and now everything's, elevated, right? So you get on up and you kind of go, yeah, I think I could have done another Final Four. Not that I would have, but so you get those kind of little twinges. But beyond that, dude, I have not. And I always said, and I said this, and before I had the job, I meant it. There's always turnover, right, with coordinators when you're a referee. One went through so many coordinators. And I remember one time it was kind of a weird thing with the Pac, and one left, and so they brought some of us to the Bay Area, and we sat in a room, and they asked our opinion about who we'd want to get and what we would do, what did you, and I was like, I don't question what the coordinator asks us to do. That's not my job. Whatever that coordinator wants me to do, that's what I'm doing. When it's my job, I'll do it my way. I didn't judge. I didn't second guess. I just said, when it's my job, I'll do it my way. So now year one, I'm not, okay, what is my way? I'm trying,
Gotta figure that out first.
you think, but, so, I think I got a pretty good handle on it. And PD, you're way better looking at the 10,000 foot than I am. I'm more kind of, I see what's coming and I prep and I know where I'm going. I mean, I've got it all kind of laid out. I'm not as good as seeing, way in the future and what's coming out. It's a little bit. You get a little bit better at it because it just helps you prepare, right, for what it is.
I didn't say I was good at it. I said that's what we need to do.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. No,
yeah.
you are good.
I am at year 6, so you're still in that early phase of development.
I'm still I tease Dan Gavin too. I'll just tell you this quick story. So Kim and I are on vacation in Cabo. I hadn't got the job yet. Right. So it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. We're in Cabo. It's like day 3 in Cabo. So, okay. You got to get out there at 6 in the morning, put your towels on the chairs you want, right? So you got that. So by 9 o'clock, we're out there. At 11 o'clock, I'm feeling pretty good because the weather's nice. The day's going really good. My phone rings and it's an Indianapolis number to take this call, babe. So I tell Dan I was at a disadvantage when you called and offered me the job. Yeah.
Too much sun.
Too much sun. Yep. This is
I said
the
yes.
Beach.
Yeah. I said yes.
Awesome. So kind of along those same lines, as we're talking about that transition from on the floor to coordinator, what are some of your favorite parts of doing what you do now as coordinator? And we'll start with Chris this time and then Penny.
My favorite parts, look, you guys all know, I love the teaching and the developing. I just, man, feel so good when it's just why I'm doing it. One, and you have a plan, and then you see the results. And so what I tell, especially the younger referees, look, we're just developing. That's all we're doing. My job, as I see it, is I've got to expand the pool of referees that can work in the tournament, that are qualified to work in the tournament. And then those, as you get deeper into the tournament, I got to expand those, the Final Four referees ultimately, right? Because you're sitting there watching, it's the same faces, and you go, okay, we need to expand. There needs to be a bigger pool of referees that the next person who has my job, the cupboard is full. And whatever that number is to you, and everybody has their own number in their head, that's fine. Whatever that number is, well, I have one, and I'm going to expand it to get more people into that, and not kind of a rotation thing, and then where performance truly matters, because there's so many qualified referees, but there are separators. So you just keep building and developing and, you know, adding to the fold.
Love it.
That's my favorite thing.
I love the cupboard is full. I like that. Penny?
Yeah, I really like what you said, Chris. And, you know, I think it's interesting you get into these positions and, you know, they don't give us a crown when we take the job, but they do give us a ton of responsibility. And, you know, I think the one responsibility I've really kind of honed in on, because it was the thing that I did. I was just trying to bring out the best in others, the best performances, the best whatever, as it ties to officiating. And I think for me that part that's my favorite is really the interaction with the officials. It's the, you know, seeing them be successful or feeling that you've had an impact because, you know, maybe you've taught something in a different way that, you know, gosh, it created that light bulb moment for them. You know, it just really helped them get to that next level, you know, whatever it is for that individual. And so, you know, to see them find that success, whether it's, you know, just getting into another conference or getting postseason for the very first time, you know, those small things, you know, really add up to the pinnacle of, you know, getting to the tournament and all those things. But if we don't pay attention to all the officials across, you know, all three levels and really, you know, factor in their journey, we're not doing those things that help us create that, you know, that pool that is then ready for that next thing. So for me, that's probably my favorite part of this job is to see that impact that I have on people. And, you know, I really take that approach. It's officials first. You know, I always heard about, you know, a coach being, well, they're a player's coach. And it's always been of my mindset to be, you know, I want to be an officials coordinator for the officials. And, you know, they're the boots on the ground. They're the ones traveling the miles, doing all the work in the games. And, you know, that's how we translate what we do. It's through them onto the floor. So that part I absolutely love. That's, you know, that's what fuels me. The other thing that's my favorite, even though I maybe don't enjoy it at times, is just the experience, the things I've learned. I've grown and I've evolved in this position, and, you know, the skills and experiences that I've gained have, you know, they've impacted me. You know, experience, sometimes you don't always like how it tastes in the moment. That's why they call it experience, but it certainly makes you better. It certainly, you know, prepares you for future challenges. And again, in this world of this dynamic college athletics, you know, we don't know what's coming ahead. And, you know, we've been surprised a number of times. You know, my very first year was the COVID year when they canceled the championship. You know, we talk about having some agility and
that wasn't challenging at all.
Yeah, ability to pivot. I mean, we're you know, meeting with the chief medical person at the NCAA on a regular basis, talking about, you know, how are we going to, you know, safely officiate these games and not contribute to the spread of this virus. And that wasn't what I anticipated in my first, second year of the job. So, you know, there's personal growth, and then there's the growth of officiating community. And for me, those are two of the top favorites of this job.
You know, Pat, I'm going to jump back in, Dan, if you guys don't mind.
Absolutely.
I really like, you know, talking about the personal growth, and I don't put that as a priority. You know, I'm with you. I prioritize the referees. They just come first in everything we do. But to see growth in myself has been, I really appreciate it. We get to meet and share meeting time with and sit in rooms and have conversations with some of the smartest, not just basketball people, but smartest people in the country, in my opinion. You're talking about commissioners, conference commissioners, and athletic directors. To just sit, when you go into those rooms, and we sit like the CCA meetings. Yeah, you know, I am a 2 ears, 1 mouth philosophy on that. I sit there and I just pay attention because you really, really learn, and that's been a huge help. They don't know it, and maybe I should thank them at some point, but I'm telling you, we get to hang out with some really cool and really smart people.
And those rooms, Chris, I know the three of us get to sit on the Officiating Development Alliance through NASO.
Yeah.
And that's a room where I don't say a whole lot because, first of all, I'm not even sure why I'm invited to those meetings, because the caliber of people in that room and the idea sharing, and it's people from every sport. it's college, it's pro, I'm in there for high school, but it, I'm just in awe. It's one of those things that I always come away with so much more knowledge, and that personal growth comes in, and you just realize that there really is no cap to how far we can grow when you're
Yep.
around people who are like-minded and who are passionate about the same things that we're passionate about. And it's not often that you're in a room of people who love officials like we do. So I think that that's always really special to be at that ODA because of the sampling of people that are in that room. And I know you all have those experiences a lot in your roles with national coordinator, and it's pretty cool. And I think you're right, Chris and Penny, we don't talk about that personal growth element enough because we are advocating for officials so much, but it's okay to have a moment where it's like, gosh, that made me better. Like, and then it's always that made me better for officials. So it's funny how that all circles back
Absolutely.
around.
But you got to put it into practice, right?
You
You got
do.
to be, I'm not going to steal the show with the intentional, but you've got to take what you've learned and then use it and practice
Absolutely.
it, right? And develop it, and then, because you just don't pick something up day one and go, I got it. I mean, it takes some work at it, and you have to practice and work. And so we're doing the same thing. All of us here,
Absolutely.
that we did on the floor. You're constantly, and if you're not growing, well, you're falling behind. If you're not, moving ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Penny, you mentioned something about kind of taking care of all three levels, and so we're going to get into the word intention. That was a couple staff camps ago, and you closed out one of our meetings, and you talked about being present at the level that you are. And so huge intention, it is all about intention. Can you kind of give us that, or give us a little bit of that?
Yeah, this word covers absolutely so many things. And to just segue from our last question, we talk about wanting our officials to be better and, what things can we do? And, we have to grow and evolve. And because we're asking that of everybody else. And, if you want to move up, if you want to obtain this, all of these things, here's the stuff you need to do. And you have to be very intentional about it. And that's, practicing what you preach. And I think for us in these leadership roles, we have to do that too. If we stay stagnant and all of a sudden expect, that next contract or, people to have a more positive perception of you, but we're not doing anything different, like we're going to fail. People are going to pass us by. But with officiating specifically, the intentional piece, it's so multifaceted. I think when you're looking at the start of your season, or you're getting hired, what were those things that got you to that moment? And for the people that just want it without putting in the work, that's you're setting yourselves up for failure in that. The daily grind, and that's not just working your game, not just getting to your game, but it's also what do you do afterwards? Is it I'm going to make time to break down my film. I'm going to make time to follow up with my partners. Even though the game's over, the game's in the past, we have lessons learned that, maybe we didn't think about them in the post-game conversations, but now I see it on film, positioning, like, gosh, if you made this adjustment, this would really help you. If I see that as a partner, I feel like I have a responsibility to this craft to share that with this person, instead of taking the attitude of like, oh, wow, look, his positioning is really poor, gosh, she should be better given all the games she's getting. That's the wrong attitude. And I think the intention piece, as we're diving into the season, being present is a huge part of that. I think that COVID and some of the guidance and things we had to do to survive that really did some damage to us as a officiating culture, with people traveling the games by themselves, being really isolated in the locker room. There's so many of us or so many people that just lock in and, put their earbuds in and they're in their own world, like that's not being present in the moment. And I think that successful officiating for a crew, that starts so long before the game. And I love the rides to the game. I love the camaraderie, getting to know people. Like when you can do that consistently and really build that rapport within your crew, like that's going to set you up for success in the game. And, I bought into that, dove in both feet first. And that for me, I think, was my calling card when I was an official. I really loved that piece of it. And I took pride in trying to get to know people to a really deep level. And that's meaningful. You develop a trust that, no matter what happens in the game, you're going to get through it in the best way you can get through it in that moment. And those are some of the things with intent. I think that there's a big piece of, what do you bring to the group? Do you raise the energy of the room? Or are you one of these energy vampires where you've got everyone so self-conscious that they don't perform in their best way? I think when you can make people feel comfortable, that absolutely is like, your superpower, because they're going to perform their best when they're comfortable. I really wish more people would focus on some of those dynamics, because I think that it makes it really enjoyable. It makes the work of officiating very enjoyable, and it's a piece of leadership that I think is undervalued or not given as much attention as it should be.
That was a fantastic answer. I'm going to have to go back and listen to the recording and take some notes, because that was unbelievable. I'm just like, why am I not writing this down right now? Good stuff. So Chris, no pressure at all. But what are your thoughts as far as being intentional? And are you, is there something that maybe you're sharing with the officials on the men's side in that regard, or something in your own personal philosophy with regard to being intentional or having an intent in all that you do in the officiating world?
I was just going to say ditto, but I guess that won't.
Nope, you guys have an actual answer.
He's on my paper. He's cheating off me the whole time.
He's totally cheating off of me.
He's got his own original thoughts. He's just holding back.
He does. He is. We all know that. He's got some gold he's going to give us, and he's second now.
Yeah. I don't know about gold. Okay, so look, and you guys are so right. It can go in so many different directions. So I'm just going to kind of, zero in on for me and what I do, and then the officials and application there. So first, I think it takes a little bit of self-awareness. And that could be one thing that's lacking from too many of us, really, in society, but we'll keep it at the officiating level. You have to have a little self-awareness, right? For those, am I not that, am I the energy vampire? You got to have some awareness that what you're bringing to the table, right? So, but in terms of intent and intentional, we brought a sports psychologist to the clinics this year. He was there virtually for 3 of them, and he came in person, the one in Philly, because he lives in Philly. We brought him to the academy, the college basketball academy, last summer, and I had heard him speak before, and I really like this guy, Dr. Joel Fish, and he had some really good just thoughts and philosophies on stuff. But one thing that he talked about was choose to. He used that phrase, choose to. So everything we do, really, in your daily routine, there's a choose to aspect to it. So today, I choose to get in the rule book and learn more about, the rules that I'm weak at. Or I choose to watch the video. I choose to break down my game afterwards and look at my position and be a better referee. I choose to bring a high energy into the locker room. I choose to not be an energy vampire. I choose to be a better partner. All these type of things. For me, it's, look, when I'm doing the training and we're doing the videos, and we do so much video work, man. It's like we're always producing content and producing video. Okay, well, I have to be intentional with what I'm doing. You can't just grab 3 plays, throw them out there, here, blah, 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 boom, okay, I check that box. What are we doing? You got to be intentional about what it is that I'm teaching. I'm getting better at this, PD. What it is, what's the message here? What's the teaching point? Okay, and then be intentional about how you put it together and the words you use and how you phrase things. So I have to be intentional with that, and intentional with, you set them up, weeks at a time. So here's what I'm doing. So there's, I'm intentional with that. We do the thing for the weekly whistle, which goes out on our YouTube channel to the media and to the general public. I'm very intentional with that. It's my intention to teach the general public about not only officials, but officiating. Not just, yeah, that's a travel, but what we do as officials, and each position and how we move on the floor and what the responsibility is. And there's intent there, being a good partner, having discipline, right? I choose to not put a whistle out of my primary unless it's an absolute, game saver. So we talk about those things. So and then now you get to the referees. Okay, well, man, I was one of those that didn't make it on, sheer athletic ability, right? Same thing when I played. I was a decent athlete. I had good hands, good feet, but 5'10" pudgy white kid. I wasn't going to Duke. Okay, I mean, they didn't come calling when I was a senior in high school. So everything I got, I had to work for. So I was intentional about my work ethic. I mean, it was every day. And then when I refereed, it was the same thing. I'm not going to let somebody outwork me. There might be better play callers, right? There might be better communicators, right? But you're not going to outwork me. So I was very intentional with my work ethic and my routine and my commitment to the game every single day, one aspect or another. I laid out the plan. It was intentional, right? I wasn't doing it just, for the hell of it. I was doing it because, you do something with intention because you're looking for a result, so that's just kind of how I've always been, back when I was maybe that was just how I was raised, work ethic, but there's intent with everything we do. And if you don't have that awareness then it takes away from that. If you don't know you're firing whistles all over the court, or if you don't know you're ball watching, there's got to be some awareness there, right? So you can choose to have awareness, choose to be a little more okay, yeah, why was I saying what am I saying? Choose to be a better communicator. You can be better at anything you want to be better at. All you got to do is choose to do it.
Gold. I knew it. I knew it was coming.
Well, I choose to have Chris answer this next question first, so he stops cheating off of Penny's paper.
Good choice. Good choice. Good choose too.
No, Penny, sit there. Sit there.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Exactly.
Truth comes out.
So intention can be defined as a goal, purpose, or aim. What are some goals as a national coordinator?
Yeah, that's a good question, Nate. I probably have never been great at this in my career, and I guess I need to be more intentional about goal setting. I know where I want to go and what I want to accomplish. One thing I clearly want to accomplish, and I work on this every day. This is definitely very intentional on my part. Is I need to be in sync with the supervisors. And I think, what do we have? People, it's different. You got, I think, less than we do, Penny. We have 14 or 15 coordinators of officials. So something that's started off to be a long-term goal, but now it's just like almost an everyday. I mean, this is what I need to accomplish. So getting us all on the same page and working together, speaking the same language, looking at plays the same way, philosophically thinking about the game consistently and like-minded. I would even use that term. So we sit in rooms, and I do things differently than my predecessor did, and it's not right or wrong, right? But to me, I got to get there. And so if I can get there, then that just helps smooth, because we're better. And Penny, I can't speak for what's going on your side. I just know we're better than we were when I was refereeing. Man, it was all over the map. And so I'm like, okay. And I know that's our job, right? To get, like-mindedness, consistency nationally. There's a truth there. And so that's what I'm headed for. That's one goal. My other goal is kind of what I do with the weekly whistle and the media. I really want to educate them on what it is we do. And, we were on with ESPN the other day. I don't know if you've had that thing yet, Petey. You were going to do that, I think, a little bit after we were going to do it. I don't know, but so I'm talking to all the people on ESPN and then all the people on Fox, and I'm talking to them about, my approach, which is not sitting in the stands or sitting on a couch and, watching games on the TV in judgment of everything the referees do. I don't do that. I don't sit in judgment every single call and every single thing. We'll get to the calls. We talk about the process and the mechanics and the system and getting them to the right place at the right time, looking at the right thing. We got a pretty good chance of getting it right. I say that so many times. I talk about teamwork and trust. That's another thing, Nate. I'm trying to get teamwork and trust in terms of every officials. There's some egos in this game, and you have to have a little bit of an ego to be a referee. You certainly have to be confident. And so there's egos involved, but it can't be so much that it hurts the game. Teamwork and trust in what we do. Teamwork and trust. So that's kind of I could keep going with other things, but that's kind of where my mind goes when you ask me that question.
Thanks, Chris. Penny?
Yeah, same as Chris.
Well played.
Yeah. He kind of teed it up for me like that. I think the overarching goal for me really is one, just to leave the game better than I found it. And, as things, I think we've been taught that approach from leaders that, that we all had coming up. And Chris and I both attended Marla Denham's camps, and that was one of the things that she really impressed upon everybody is leave the game better than you found it. And that just needs to be part of your ethos, I think, as an official, and certainly in these roles as national coordinator. But how do you go about that? How do you do that? And it's sometimes just the little stuff. And Chris talked about the media. We have our meetings with ESPN coming up this week where we talk through what, things are on the forefront of officials' minds and the rules and some of the focus. And, working to just build a rapport there and a relationship and not make it a us versus them, having some transparency with, what we do. We get calls right, we get calls wrong. We're not 100%. We'll never be 100%, but we can do a part in educating them so that they're telling the right story. And we spent a lot of time in that over the last 6 years in women's basketball. And one of the things I learned is they've got a million responsibilities too, and and they want to know, and it's part of our job to help them understand that. And one of the commentators reached out to me, and she's like, I would really love just to have kind of this 1-page document that is like a quick reference. Do you have anything like that? And I'm like, no. And literally for 2 years, we went back and forth. I'm like, no, it's on my list. It's on my vision board. I want to do it. And finally we put it through and put the time in. I think this last year was the second year of having it. And I'll tell you, there's a bit of satisfaction when you're sitting at home and they've got a replay review, and it's a potential upgrade play. And literally I hear them talking through the criteria. This is what the referees are looking for. And it was like bullet points from my little 1-pager that I had sent out. And I'm like, yes, they're communicating the right stuff. It's 100% what we had listed. It's the correct rule. So now we're creating the correct narrative around the official's decision. It's easier for them to support what we have in that moment when they have the right information. And it's like, wow, that had a positive impact. Additional goals, I think just being able to be transparent with our officials and letting them know what the expectations are, and, being fair to them, seeing them with fresh eyes and not just taking everybody on their resume. It's like, what are you doing right now in the moment? You got to be there and advance because of your performance in the moment, not on, your resume from 10 years ago. And so being able to watch games with fresh eyes as we're evaluating talent, and those decisions are hard when you have to decide that someone who's been a perennial tournament official is, no longer has the speed to, work the rigors of this high profile game or the speed of this tournament game. you're in a seat where those decisions are, part of your responsibility to the game too. And, it's not personal in those moments. It's just business. And, I think that part of it is really important to take seriously and to manage and to, just delicately as possible, deal with it. And, I think that for me, as we're developing talent and we're trying to grow the pool, it creates an opportunity for that next generation of official to get their chance and to get the opportunity. And that's really, a big part of the responsibility too with this job. And there's a number of goals. And I think ultimately it's just to be the best at this job and for the demands that are in front of it. And that's what we ask of the officials. You're hired into this new league. I talk about being the best at the level you're currently at. And we have a lot of officials moving around to different conferences or getting their first opportunity. I think it's really your job to not forget where you came from and, to realize, wow, I just got D2 this year and, you're going to get 6, 8, 10 games maybe. You're still working Division III. You're going to get your 40 games there. Like, you know what? Be the best at the level you're at. And right now you're a Division III official that's getting an opportunity at Division II. That doesn't make you a D2 official. And I think so often we have officials that, I move up or I get this next opportunity, and then we don't bother to pay as much attention to the things that, to where our bread and butter is. And, for that example, your bread and butter's that D3, and, you should be trying to not just be an official in that league, but, how do I move up from a U1 to being a referee? How do I move up from being a referee to now getting opportunities in the postseason? Like, that's truly, the next level for some people. And I think so often, we've got officials that have moved up really quickly and, they forget where they're at and they don't try to continue to strive to be the best at one spot. And when you can be the best at one spot, those things will translate into, ascension at that true next level in your mind. So, that's what I'm trying to do. Just really be as good as I can be with all the things I have in front of me, and take care of your own yard. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and Penny, you just very skillfully and masterfully teed up our next question. So thank you for doing that. I don't even know if you did that, but if you knew that you're doing that, as we're talking to officials, this audience is at every level. So if there's officials who are looking for movement from high school into Division III or from Division III up to Division I, what's some advice that you each would give to them? And I know, Penny, you're already there a little bit as far as being the best at the level you're at. Can you kind of just expand on that and give some advice to our listeners, and then we'll pass it over to Chris?
Yeah, I think the moving up is there's parts of it, but my advice, one, would be just enjoy the journey. I hear so often from officials, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Well, be patient. Understand that the people who maybe hold the keys to that next thing for you, they're really making decisions with your best interest in mind, because you don't know what you don't know. I had this one official who got his first Sweet 16 assignment in the tournament, and I see him that summer, the very very next summer, and he says to me, he's like, well, Penny, tell me what I need to do to move up. I'm like, what do you mean? The next level. And he's like, okay, well, what's the next level? I mean, I'm like championing this guy. I'm like, awesome. You got to the Sweet 16. You got, a regional semifinal. That's massive. No, he's like the Elite 8. And I was like, slow your roll, partner. Hang on a minute. But I think that's so much the many officials' mindset is like, okay, I got this. What's next? What's next? It's like, the next thing is to just try to get back there. The next thing is to, go from being that U2 and, barely getting to that level to, don't discount the reps. Don't discount the training and experience, because, officiating is not going anywhere. And you want to get those opportunities when you are ready and you can sustain the rigors of whatever that next opportunity is. And it's not who gets there first. It's really about the long game. And I think so many times the mindset is, sprint fast, get me to that comma check. And, you don't realize the experience you're getting. I mean, I learned so much in Division II because so many things happen in those games. You'll have plays that you will never see again, or, maybe you will, but because you've had that rep back here, you remember it and now you're prepared. That part of it is really, really valuable. And then the second piece I want to say, we talk about self-awareness. There's a lot of officials that get to the point where like, well, we got to be confident. I gotta have that confident mindset, and it sometimes leans into I'm never wrong. And if you are an official who's never wrong, you're kind of scary to the people that need you to work and to understand where you're at. And you have to have the awareness that you might not be right. And sometimes it doesn't feel good to say I'm wrong or I might not be right, but you have to have that bit of humility in the moment, because it's a business where we're not going to be right all the time. We have to have that just acceptance of that in the moment. The games are too dynamic. As we move up to next levels, we're going to be faced with things we haven't experienced, and we're going to get exposed. And that's not the end of the world. We're not expecting officials to be perfect, but we do expect them to get better from those experiences and to take it to the finish line in a positive way. And I think the officials that are most successful are able to get to that point and the fastest. So, if you're sitting at home watching your film and you're clipping all your correct plays to show your friends, that's not the right strategy. Clip the plays that are learning moments, and then, bare your soul, bare your errors to your partners, because that's what raises the level of everybody in the room. When you can share that error and then they get better from it, that helps officiating grow. And that's putting the game first and your partner second, and then yourself. That's the full circle of officiating. And, you got to be intentional about it, because it's not always easy to do those things. Christopher.
That was great, PD. I'll share a quick story about humility. So I got a young referee that I've mentored for a long time. Well, I never mind. I was going to go somewhere, and I'll keep it on point. So he still reaches out. They still reach out, and I think that's okay, because you just can't all of a sudden not talk to people. I watched a game. I happened to be at a game that he was, and so I wrote up some notes, and I sent him the notes, and here's what I thought. His response was, I said, about this one play, I thought your whistle was quick. If you had just held it, blah, blah, blah. No, I felt really good about it on the floor, was his response. I said, well, then I guess you're good to go. I'm not. Okay, dude. It's, so I had to put him in the doghouse, PD, for a while there. He wants to reach out and said, you don't need my help. So you don't need my help. So in the summer, I run across him, and he goes, he got the message. He goes, okay, what can I add? Look, hunger and humility. You got to stay hungry, but you got to be humble, dude. And it was funny because he made it to Division I. He's been in Division I, but he had like more games than ever. So, having some success, and now, oh no, I felt really good about that. Oh, my bad. Sorry, I brought it up. So be hungry, stay hungry, but you got to be humble, because this game will humble you in a heartbeat. Or not this game, but what we do will humble you. So patience and priorities, and you can take those priorities any way you want. We're talking about the game. It's always the game comes first. The kids come first, the game comes first, your crew comes second, you come last. But you need to have priorities in your life in balance, and a balance there. And officiating can be somewhere in there, but it can't be your number one. Whatever, obviously your family and your job, your faith, those things, however you want to prioritize those, fine. But this game will, again, when you think you have it, you're right I'm right where I want to be. I can see myself. Yeah, I'm going to be Final Four 2 years from now. 2 years. It doesn't work that way, my friend. So patience, and boy, with even more so now, I caution referees, because you go to the academy and because I want to what do I got to do? You got to put in the work. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. and the switching of or the coordinators, all of a sudden you've gone from 50 games and you're on the rise to 10 games because this person doesn't know who you are and what happened to all your games. So
Yeah.
it's
And
crazy.
both,
Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
yeah, no, both of you talked about being intentional at that lower level, and if you don't take care of and you don't enjoy the process, you're gonna miss out on a lot of really good things. And don't be in such a hurry to get to that comma check, because with that comma check comes a lot more pressure and a lot less fun, right? It becomes a job, and still fun, but man, some of my greatest times are with the high school buddies, in the car, driving 3 hours to the middle of nowhere and stopping at the local bar after and having a drink and talking basketball. Those are the things that I miss daily. I'm still in the friend group threads, and while they're on the road having a good time, I'm sitting in an airport, by myself. And so be intentional and really enjoy the level that you're at, because
Absolutely.
once you leave it, it's, you can always go back, but you're missing out on those opportunities, and FOMO, right? It's
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
when you know that your high school buddies are, at the local Applebee's, and you're not there. With that, and talking high school, Dana and I obviously are super passionate about high school officiating and at all levels and all sports. How important is it for, college officials and even both of you to try to give back to the high school levels?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I think that's what you do. That's what you sign on for. And whenever I'm on my soapbox and I'm talking to referees, and especially the younger referees that are, coming up, hey, look, when you sign up to be a referee, there are certain things that you sign up for, a level of professionalism, for one, and things of that nature. And we have those conversations, but giving back is all part of it. I use the barrel of monkeys analogy, where, you got the arm of the one guy and then the other guy's reaching down to help somebody. And that's how it works. Give of yourself. This is not about you. Be a part of something bigger, something bigger than yourself. And if you have that attitude and enjoy that, because that's, to me, is, again, part of this job is that's where you gain the satisfaction, and you put your head in the pillow at night knowing that you helped and you gave back. And we are so blessed. I was talking to a coach the other day, and we were just having a conversation, and we are so lucky and so blessed to be doing what we do. All of us. We're so lucky that have to give. You should want to give back. It's not a have to, you get to. I mean, it's just part of what we do. That's the love and the joy and the satisfaction and the growth and the appreciation for everything that this game has given us. That's how I do it. That's why I took the job, Nate. Give back. I'm a giver.
Absolutely. Penny?
I think it's essential to stay connected, and I've got a plan in the next couple of weeks to make an appearance at my local association's meeting.
Right.
But shout out to Seattle Officials Women's Basketball, who's now the PNBOA. They've merged with the boys group, but that group, one, I think for high school groups, you have an essential role. One, to make that first impression for somebody that walks into the room feel welcomed. I think that piece is probably underrated, because it's so, we talk about officials, and if they don't survive their first 3 years, they're gone. And that group for me welcomed me with open arms and challenged me, and again, I found my people, which is so important. And for that gift that I received, and how impactful that was, one, in my life. I mean, look at where I am now. If things would have gone poorly when I walked in that room, who knows what track the universe would have had for me in a different realm. I wouldn't have probably gone back to the sport in the same way. So, I think that giving back is just, it's a responsibility for what you received. I think the other piece of that is, you have a chance to kind of inspire that, that next Penny Davis that's sitting in the room. If they never hear or never see, what the possibilities are, they never think that they could do that. And so to know you sat in that seat and you were, a first year official working, the CYO on the weekends and the 5th and 6th grade middle school games, that's where we all started too. I think it's easy to forget sometimes that's where those origins were. So for me, that piece of giving back, I think ultimately that's part of your legacy. And, that's something I want to, be able to take pride in, wow, she was here and didn't abandon us. She was always a resource. I think that's of value, and the lives that you can touch. There have been a number of officials who have been so kind when they've, maybe got hired for the first time in Division I or got their first postseason assignment. Penny, I got state this year. They'll reach out and tell me those things and then thank me. And I'm like, wow, well, thank you for calling me. I love that. You don't know the impact that you've had on people unless they take that time. And I always, do them the good service of saying, you know what, you earned it. You put the work in. You did the things that led to that. If I had a little bit of an influence there, that really makes me feel good. But, wow, I'm really proud and, happy for you. So congratulations. Like that, sometimes that's, all we get in officiating. So for me, it's those accolades, like, that's the trophy on the wall is to know that you had that kind of positive impact on someone. But that piece is huge. The other thing I want to acknowledge is that, maybe you're an official watching this. You're like, wow, I'd want to get back to my high school group. That's great. Thanks for reminding me of that. But, I don't have a Final Four. I'm not a national coordinator. I'm not this. Any of you can do that. It doesn't mean that, you got to be at such this extreme elevated level to be able to contribute and give a gift. It might be just teaching at your apprentice class one of the nights, popping in there and being a positive. I mean, go to that old watering hole, that Applebee's, and, move those salt and pepper shakers around like they're leading trail. And I guess we need ketchup now for the center. But, it's those things that I think are really meaningful and are really part of the positive officiating journey that I think, shouldn't be overlooked.
I love that. And Nate and I talk a lot, and it kind of leads us into this next question. So with the podcast, one of the things we're trying to do is bring guests on the show that are not only inspirational, but aspirational. And when you're talking about kind of, both of you and your roots and your journeys and letting people know what's possible and what's out there ahead of, at the end of their careers, when they're coming off the floor, things that they can do, and knowing that you all started in a room just like they started. You all didn't know what the heck a camp was when you first started. I mean, all of those things that they're experiencing, you went through too. So I think that, that's been something really cool about bringing folks like you onto this podcast, is so that listeners understand where your journey started. You didn't just all of a sudden get these positions. You had a road ahead of you, and you started in, a gym somewhere where you were refereeing for $9 a game and all of those things. So I just think it's cool to share those stories so people understand what that looks like. So as we talk about inspiring and being aspirational and all of those things, one of our missions with our podcast every week is to educate, elevate, and excite. So Penny, from an educational perspective, what is something that you wish that college basketball fans knew about college basketball referees?
Boy, that's a long list, but I'll give you my top one.
I like it.
I think so often there's the perception that, we have an agenda and that the agenda favors one team or the other. And I really would just love it if the fans could have a perspective that, was true. Our agenda is to get our plays right. We do have an agenda. I will acknowledge that, but it's to get plays right. It is not to favor one side or the other. The job of officiating is so difficult. And when we do make an error, it's painful. And, we don't need, the boo birds and, the fodder that happens now on social media and the criticisms, we're feeling the pain of that all on our own. And those things are, they're part of the world we live in now, and we have to accept that. But, at the same time, it's just like, we're humans. We're going to try to get better from all those mistakes, but our agenda is just to serve the game and to do the right things. And that would be my number one on that question.
That's a good one. And I loved what you said about when officials make a mistake, they're kind of suffering on their own. I don't think people understand that officials are truly their own worst critics. That's something I try to tell people all the time of, if you think you booing them is bad, they've already beat themselves up quite enough. Like they don't need your help. They already feel badly about it. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Chris, what would you say to current officials to excite them about what they do, and anyone that's thinking about becoming an official? What would you also tell them?
To me, a lot of it is especially for the current Division I referees, like when you're in front of them, at the clinic, you're in front of a room with 300 referees. A lot of times it's not so much what you say. I mean, we're trying to teach them about plays and positioning and looking at plays and what have you, and whatever we're talking about. But a lot of it is how you say it. And I try to every time, and I always end up apologizing too if I'm on like with the media or something, because I'll get off and I'll get going and I get on my soapbox and I just start talking and I'm high energy and I'm just bringing it to them. And I'm just like, look, I apologize. I'm sorry I went there, but I can't help it, because you asked me a question. You asked me to talk about officiating. It's like talking about my kids or my grandkids. Once you get hey, be careful what you ask for. So I think for the current referees, you just bring it with passion and sincerity. And if they can feel that you're coming from a place that I have one goal today, everybody, is that how much I care about you and you are all that matters to me. And if I can deliver that, I think that excites them to go out and be the best they can be. Hey, I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it for him, because he cares. He cares about us and what we do, and he cares that we are successful. That's the only thing that matters. And then the younger the younger ones that are thinking about getting in them, you just get in front of the room and you share that passion. I mean, you share all these stories that you're talking about and hanging out and just the fun and just the friendships and just what you get out of. I mean, the game's great, but it's all the other stuff that's just so much fun, and the network and the relationships and just how cool it is to put on the stripes. And again, you have the energy and the passion, and that just sucks them in.
I love it. I think all four of us could talk for the next week or so about officiating, because it's something that we all love, but I know we all have lives, so we should probably at some point bring this to an end. So I want to say thank you to both Penny Davis and Chris Rastatter for taking time with us on a Saturday, which I know is about to get very rare in your lives as far as having any free time. So we appreciate you carving out some time to visit with us about officiating. And I personally want to thank you for your friendship, your support, for being such great ambassadors of the profession and or avocation of officiating. What you do is tremendous. And the fact that you stay so connected to us at the high school level is so greatly appreciated. And I can't thank you enough for what you do and for the human beings you are. I'm honored to know both of you, and I appreciate your time. And Nate, please feel free to share your thoughts as well.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And both of you have impacted me personally on many levels. And so I want to thank both of you for that, as well as joining us. So to the rest of you, thanks for joining us. Check us out on our socials: Facebook, Instagram, X. Find episode recaps, previews, and upcoming episodes. See you next week.
Thank you.
Be sure to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, and also catch From A to Zebra on Instagram at from_A_2_zebra, Facebook, From A to Zebra Podcast, and on X at From A to Zebra.